Act II of The Mind the Paint Girl by Arthur Pinero. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The scene is an artistically decorated refreshment saloon, or foyer, on the first circle floor of a theater. The wall facing the spectator is paneled partly in glass, and through the glazed panels the corridor behind the circle and the doors admitting to the circle are seen. The right-hand wall is paneled in a similar way, showing the landing at the top of the principal staircase and an entrance to the corridor. Some music stands and stools are on the landing, arranged for a small orchestra. In the right-hand wall there is a double swing door giving onto the landing, and in the wall at the back, opening onto and from the corridor, there is a single swing door on the left and another on the right. The left-hand door is fastened back into the saloon by a hook. Between the two doors in the back wall runs the refreshment counter. In one of the further corners of the saloon there is a plaster statue representing the Muse of Comedy. In the opposite corner, a companion figure of dancing. In the wall on the left, the grate hidden by flowers, is a fireplace with a fender stool before it, and on either side of the fireplace there is a capacious and richly upholstered armchair. A settee of like design stands against the wall on the right, between the double door and the spectator. The counter is decked out as a sideboard, and at equal distances from each other there are 4 round tables laid for a supper party of 26 persons. There are 8 chairs at one table and 6 at each of the others, the chairs being of the sort usually supplied by ball caterers. The saloon and the landing without are brilliantly lighted, the corridor less brightly. Luigi and 4 waiters, one of whom has a curly head and a fair beard ending in 2 flamboyant points, are putting the finishing touches on the laying of the tables, while Morris Cooling, a person of imposing presence, displaying a vast expanse of shirt front, is engaged in placing upon each of the serviettes a card bearing the name of a guest. Cooling referring to a plan of the tables which he has in his hand.
Miss Conifee, Miss Conifee, Miss Conifee, where's Miss Conifee? Ah, here you are, my dear.
Moving to Miss Conifee's chair and putting a card upon her serviette.
Next to old Arthur.
The 4 waiters, obeying a direction in dumb show from Luigi, go out at the door on the left. Luigi, a little dark active man, viewing the tables with satisfaction.
Tables look nice, Mr. Cooling.
Cooling absorbed.
Not bad, not bad, not bad.
Luigi follows the waiters.
Miss Cato.
Moving to another table and laying a card upon a serviette.
Gabrielle.
Roper bustles in through the double door in high feather.
Hello.
Cutting a caper.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and how are you tomorrow?
Cooling deep in his plan of the tables.
Hello, Lau.
Roper surveying the tables.
Splendid.
Going from one table to another.
Seating 'em, hey?
Mr. Pog, Mr. Pog, Mr. Pog.
Placing another card.
Albert.
Which do you make your principal table?
There it is. You're at it.
Ah, yes.
Examining the cards.
Miss Lily Paradell.
His jaw falling.
Why, you've gone and put the Baron on her right.
Cooling unconsciously.
Well, what's the objection?
Where's Farcombe? Where's Lord Farcombe?
On the other side, with Dolly Stidolf and Enid.
Rats.
What do you mean by rats?
Advancing to the principal table. Nettled.
Look here, Lau.
My dear fellow, Miss Paradell is the heroine of the party. The seat next to her is the seat of honour.
That's why I put the Baron there, with things as they are between England and Germany.
If Germany doesn't like it, she must lump it. Lord Farcombe's the eldest son of an earl. You can't get over that.
Cooling picking up Farncombe's card.
Oh, have it your own way.
Roper picking up von Rittemeyer's card.
Besides, the Baron's sweet on Enid just now. I'm sure he'd prefer—
They exchange the cards and rearrange them.
Thanks, old man. Sorry I was shirty.
Cooling, laying down his plan and cards, and producing a letter from his breast pocket.
By the by, the fair lady, the heroine of the party, as you call her, is in a pretty tantrum over the whole business.
Tantrum?
Cooling, unfolding the letter.
Had this from her 10 minutes ago. Listen to this.
Reading.
My dressing room, 11:15, 80 degrees, with the windows open.
In an injured tone.
Ha! So I should think.
Roper, concerned.
What's amiss?
Cooling, reading.
More you pig.
Roper whistles.
More you pig, I should feel deeply indebted to you if you would kindly inform me why the devil you went out of your way to deceive me last night. You led me to suppose, and so did that lying worm Lal Roper.
Looking at Roper.
You.
Oh, Lord.
That lying worm Lal Roper.
Roper, testily.
All right, all right.
You both led me to suppose that this rotten banquet was to be a family gathering of the ladies and gentlemen of the Pandora Theatre, and no outsiders asked. Now I find that only 3 or 4 of the men of the company are invited, and I hear from Nita Trevenna, who has got it from young Kennedy, that several of the boys are to be laid on for the occasion. The result is you have made me tell a regular whopper to a particular friend of mine with regard to this affair.
Roper, passing his hand over his brow.
Nico Jays.
Which I will never forgive you for, Morris Schooling, neither you nor Lal Roper. As true as I am alive, I have a jolly good mind not to show, but to put on my old rags and go straight home. You are 2 cads, so take it out of that, and believe me, always yours affectionately, Lil.
Roper, walking about.
Well, I'm blessed.
Cooling, returning the letter to his pocket.
Ha! Tasty document.
Lying worm and a cad, and from Miss Lily Margaret Upjohn. Done anything about it?
No, waited for you.
Going on with his arrangements at the table.
You're responsible. What I did last night was simply to oblige a pal.
Roper, irresolutely.
I'd better run round to her and try to smooth her down, hadn't I?
Perhaps you had.
Placing a card.
Mr. Stewart Heneage.
To Roper.
Why you wanted to mislead the girl, I can't understand.
Damn it, you agreed that that silly brute Jays would be a wet blanket. You blow hot and cold, you do.
There you go. More filthy temper.
If ever I assist in getting up another party...
As he reaches the door on the left, he encounters Carlton Smythe, who is entering at that moment, and puts on his humorous manner.
Hullo, here we are again. All change for Oxford Circus.
Smythe, a bulky, sleepy-looking man, with grey hair, a darker moustache and beard, and a heavy rolling gait.
Hullo!
I'm just going to have a word with Lil Paradell.
He disappears, and Smythe advances. Cooling, approaching Smythe.
How are you tonight, Chief?
Smythe, a silk hat on the back of his head, an overcoat on his arm, regarding the preparations with disgust.
It's a muck and a muddle.
Don't worry, we'll clear it away in no time. Shall I tell you who are coming?
No, I shall know soon enough. What was the house tonight?
Cooling, producing a long slip of paper and handing it to Smythe.
Big.
Smythe scans the paper through half-closed lids and gives a growl of contentment.
Ah, and the weather dead against us.
Smythe, screwing up the paper and cramming it into his waistcoat pocket.
There's no bad weather for a good play.
Looking at his hands.
I'll go and have a wash and a brush-up.
Luigi returns, entering at the door on the left, and goes behind the counter. The waiters follow him, carrying some melons lying upon ice in plated dishes. They deposit the dishes upon the counter, and Luigi proceeds to cut the melon into slices. Cooling resumes at the table on the left the placing of the cards. As Smythe is moving towards the right-hand door at the back, Stewart Heneage and Gerald Grimwood, 2 exquisitely dressed youths with blank faces, enter from the landing. Smythe shakes hands with them.
Ah, Mr. Heneage, Mr. Grimwood.
Heneage and Grimwood murmur some polite expressions.
Excuse me. I'm just going to wash my hands.
De Castro enters, also at the double door, and Smythe shakes hands with him. Heneage and Grimwood drift over to Cooling, who hails them warmly.
How do, Sam? Back in a moment. Just going to wash my hands.
De Castro detaining him.
I say, Carlton.
Eh?
I've been in front again tonight. Magnificent. Marvellous.
Smythe resignedly.
Oh, it'll do. I shall get a couple of years out of it.
There's just one little improvement I'd like to see, if I may suggest it.
What's that?
De Castro linking his arms in Smythe's.
You're sure you won't consider me presumptuous?
Of course not. Very kind of you.
De Castro in Smythe's ear.
If you could give Miss Cato, a tiny bit more to do in the second act.
Smythe nodding.
Ah, yes, yes.
She's a little lump o' talent, that gal, if you only realized it. A perfect little lump o' talent.
Smythe trying to escape.
I'll think it over.
Will yer? An extra thong. That's all it need be, an extra thong. Oh, it would be such an improvement.
Von Rittenmeyer enters at the double door. The waiters now go to the tables and lay a plate with a slice of melon upon each cover.
Ah, here's the Baron. We've been sitting together tonight, I and the Baron.
Wringing Smythe's hand.
Thanks.
Joining Cooling and the others on the left as Smythe greets von Rittenmeyer.
Hullo, Morris.
Shaking hands with Heneage and Grimwood.
Well, boys.
Smythe shaking hands with von Rittenmeyer.
Glad to see you, Baron.
So good of you to have me.
Excuse me, I'm just going to wash my hands.
Von Rittenmeyer detaining him.
Pardon me, one moment.
Eh?
May I take the liberty of indulging in a little criticism on your excellent play?
Certainly.
Von Rittenmeyer drawing Smythe away from the tables.
Come here.
His mouth close to Smythe's ear.
The second act.
Second act? What's the matter with it?
The part where the charming Miss Paradise is changing a costume.
Yes?
That is where the piece requires lifting.
With a gesture.
Lifting.
Lifting?
Mr. Darvish, Mr. Bog, extremely clever.
Slipping his arm through Smythe's.
But if you could see your way clear to give Enid, Miss Moncrief, another dance.
Smythe nodding.
Ah,
It would remove the solitary imperfection.
I'll think it over.
Releasing himself.
I'm just going to wash my hands. We'll talk about it later.
Schönsten Dank.
Going to the men on the left.
Aha, Mr. Gouling, my dear steward, my dear Jerry.
As Smythe is again making for the door on the left, Mrs. Stidolph enters from the landing, with Colonel Stidolph. Smythe to Mrs. Stidolph.
Ah, Dolly! How are you, my dear?
Mrs. Stidolph, a mature but still beautiful woman, gorgeously dressed and wearing showy jewels with a lofty air.
How are you, Carlton?
Smythe to Stidolph.
How do you do, Arthur? Delighted to see you.
Lucky I'm able to come to you tonight. It's so difficult to catch me in the season.
Been in front?
Yes. Oh, yes.
What? Don't you like it?
Oh, I don't say I dislike it.
Shrugging her shoulders.
But one can't forget what one used to do here in the old days.
Stidolph, an elderly, distinguished-looking man, with a meek voice and a courteous but rather nervous manner.
I've had a most enjoyable evening, Carlton. So bright, so very bright.
Mrs. Stidolph to Stidolph, sneeringly.
Oh, anything pleases you. You'd laugh at Punch and Judy.
I'm just running away to wash my hands.
looking towards the men on the left.
You know von Rittenmeyer?
Know him? Why, he was about in my time.
Crossing to von Rettenmeyer, followed by Stidolf.
Carl.
My dear lady.
Kissing her hand perfunctorily.
What bliss.
Shaking hands with Stidolf.
Colonel.
Mrs. Stidolf shaking hands with De Castro.
How are you, Sam?
Ah, Dolly! Hello, Arthur.
Cooling presenting Heneage and Grimwood to the Stidolfs.
Mr. Stewart Heneage, Mr. Gerald Grimwood.
As the Stidolfs leave Smythe, Herbert Fulkerson enters from the landing with Farncombe. In dumb show, Smythe and Fulkerson greet each other, and then Fulkerson introduces Farncombe. Smythe shaking hands with Farncombe.
Glad to make your acquaintance.
Glad to make yours, Mr. Smythe, and in such circumstances.
Fulkerson, a white-haired young man with red eyes of dissipated appearance, espying Mrs. Stidolf.
By Jove, if it is a Dolly answer!
Hurrying to Mrs. Stidolf.
What cheer, Dolly?
Mrs. Stidolf coldly.
How do you do, Mr. Fulkerson?
Fulkerson slightly abashed.
Oh, I'm pretty middling, thanks. Hope you're the same.
Nodding to Stidolf.
Evening, Arthur.
Vincent Bland has sauntered in at the door on the left, and now joins the group surrounding the Stidolfs. Bland nodding to Heneage and Grimwood.
Hello, Stewart. Hello, Jerry.
Coming to the Stidolfs.
Dolly. Colonel.
Smythe to Farncombe.
I'll be back in a minute or two. I'm just going to wash my hands.
Fulkerson calling to Farncombe.
Hi, Hetty!
Farncombe crosses to Fulkerson and is presented by him to the Stidolfs. Gabriel Cato enters at the right-hand door at the back, meeting Smythe as he is going out. The waiters have finished setting the plates of melon upon the tables and now withdraw, carrying the plated dishes, and preceded by Luigi at the door on the left. Smythe to Gabrielle.
Ah, Gabby, my dear. Quite well, huh?
Gabrielle, a pretty young woman with a fretful little face, expressive of extreme dissatisfaction with the world, looking at Smythe spiritlessly.
This is a treat. Why, you haven't been to see us for ages.
Smythe, cunningly.
I see you all far oftener than you suspect.
Do you? That is sly of you.
Smythe leaving her.
I'm just going to have a wash and a brush up.
Really? Oh, you are full of news.
He departs as De Castro approaches Gabrielle.
Hello, Gabth. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm all right, I suppose. Isn't it hot?
De Castro not at ease with her.
It ith inclined that way.
Daphne Dure, Nita Tavenna, Douglas Glenn, and Albert Polk enter at the door on the left. Nita is a tall, handsome girl. Daphne a plump little fair baby-faced thing. They are charmingly dressed, as are all the ladies of the Pandora Theatre. Glenn and Polk, the latter a short, thick-set man, who might reasonably be a low comedian, are two professional-looking gentlemen of the best class. The arrivals are warmly hailed by Fulkerson, von Rettenmeyer, Heneage, and Grimwood, with more reserve by Mrs. Stidolf. Stidolf has seated himself wearily in the armchair on the nearer side of the fireplace, and beyond listening to Bland, who is talking to him, has withdrawn himself from the proceedings. Fulkerson to Farncombe.
Here's Daphne Dure and Nita Trevenna. Hello, Daphne. Hello, Nita. Hiya, Douglas. Hello, Albert.
Howdy do, Bertie. How do you do, Vaughn?
Von Rettenmeyer kissing their hands.
Dear ladies. Ah, Mr. Glynn, Mr. Bach.
Howdy do, Stewie.
Howdy do, Stewie.
Howdy do,
Howdy
Jerry.
do, Jerry.
How Dolly.
Oh, Dolly.
That you, Dolly?
Well, girls.
Here, I want to introduce Lord Farncombe, Miss Dure, Miss Trevenna, Lord Farncombe, Douglas, Albert, Lord Farncombe.